The first trailer for The Mandalorian Season 3 came out, and we're all excited, but there were a few things that stood out and didn't really sit well with us. In this preview, we saw Bo-Katan Kryze being kind of cold to Din, and it almost seemed like she may slowly be turning into a bad guy in the upcoming season. Here's what we know about Bo-Katan Kryze potentially turning into a villain in Season 3. To start with, tensions building up between Bo-Katan Kryze and Din by the end of the Season 2. In the last episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, Din finally beats Moff Gideon and saved Grogu. Though it happened unintentionally, he was able to get the Darksaber, which is very important to the people of Mandalore and to their culture. It's basically seen as a weapon, but also a sign of leadership. When Din beat Moff Gideon in a battle and got the Darksaber, he automatically gained some status. Din honestly had no idea what he was getting himself into when he won the Darksaber though. When he found out how important it was, he tried to give it to Bo-Katan. Of course, Bo-Katan didn't take up the offer. This is because she had to respect the tradition. She knew if she took it just like that, there would be witnesses who would see her not following the tradition, which would make her claim to the Darksaber invalid. In either case, she said she didn't want it, even though it was very clear from the scene that she did. This encounter between the two left things a bit tense since it's now a matter of status and leadership. Coming up, why the Darksaber is important for Bo-Katan. Fans of Star Wars Rebels will do a better job understanding why Bo-Katan really wants the Darksaber. The thing is, it was hers to begin with. Sabine Wren gave it to Bo-Katan as a means to bring together the different Mandalorian tribes. Then, during the Siege of Mandalore, Bo-Katan lost the Darksaber, and it ended up in the hands of Moff Gideon. Bo-Katan had every intention of getting the Darksaber back from Gideon and going back to her mission to bring Mandalore back together, but Din taking it made everything a lot harder. Din doesn't even want the Darksaber though. We saw Din offering to give the Darksaber back to Bo-Katan without fighting because he wants to be a part of the galaxy, not a leader, but Bo-Katan insists that it must be earned through battle. So in Season 3, it's very likely that there could be a fight between Din and Bo-Katan. This could also happen more than once, which makes her a threat all season long. No matter what happens, her relationship with Din and her fight for the Darksaber could add more tension for both the audience and the main characters. What's more, Bo-Katan accuses Din of some pretty bad stuff. It doesn't sound like Din Djarin and Bo-Katan Kryze. The conversation in the Season 3 trailer for The Mandalorian is a happy one. In fact, Bo-Katan says some pretty mean things to Din. She even calls Din's coven a cult, and says they are to blame for the split in Mandalore. That's a pretty serious charge, and we don't think a loyalist like Din will take it too well. To be honest, it's clear that the Armorer and her people do things a little differently than Bo-Katan and her Mandalorian followers. The show pointed out that the helmets were the most obvious difference. This could be a sign that our hero comes from a more radical branch of the Mandalorian cult, even though he is currently at odds with them, as seen in the Book of Boba Fett. At the very least, it represents a part of Mandalore, and Bo-Katan hasn't respected, which is a problem for someone who is seen as a leader when she first got the Darksaber. This could be the source of trouble between Bo-Katan and Din Djarin in Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Bo-Katan seems to be against the kind of Mandalore that Din grew up in, which makes it easy to see why she's worried about him having the Darksaber. He has the power to bring their divided people all over the galaxy together and shape them, and he's already making a name for himself as a strong and skilled warrior. Not to mention Moff Gideon's absence means a new villain has to step into his shoes. Moff Gideon was caught by the good guys in Season 2 to The Mandalorian, and even though that's a good thing, it could also be a problem for this show. If the main bad guy is caught and put in jail, there won't be anyone else who can stand up to Din Djarin and try to steal Grogu right away. It's not like they have a shortage of bad guys who will try to get the child, but usually there is one main bad guy who is the face of the plan. We know that Giancarlo Esposito will be back as Moff Gideon in Season 3, but the fact that wasn't in the most recent footage makes us wonder how much of him we'll be seeing. If Gideon is killed, Bo-Katan could become the new villain and help start a storyline that is more about Mandalore and the Mandalorians. At the end, who knows, maybe it's not Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian is just waiting until Season 3 to reveal who the bad guy is. Even though Bo-Katan isn't the main bad guy, there is definitely tension between her and Din that needs to be resolved. Now for some other related news you might have missed out on. First up, Star Wars is coming with a spin-off story for the perfect villain. The story of how General Grievous came to be is one of the most interesting in Star Wars. A spin-off show about his life before the Clone Wars would be a great idea. Grievous, the general cyborg leader of the Separatist army, would make a great villain for a spin-off. Grievous's unique fighting style and mean personality have made him a fan favorite, but his past would make him an interesting starting point for the show. Grievous was once a fully organic Kaleesh being. He became a great warrior and rose to power, but a broken heart led him down a darker path. This tragic fall, along with the fact that he was already a well-known character, makes him the perfect person to build on for the rest of the story. The most interesting thing about a spin-off with Grievous would be his species and the warlord persona he had even before the Clone Wars. Grievous's relationship with his people is very different, and it would be interesting to learn more about it. Even before he changed, Grievous was a great fighter, which made it easy for him to become a fearsome lightsaber duelist. It would be very interesting to see how Grievous used his power and what he did as a military leader before he fell. Up next, Andor could bring back excitement in the Star Wars universe. By putting the focus on the Empire and those who are motivated to work for or against it, Andor opens up a lot of story possibilities for the world of Rogue One. In Star Wars, there have always been a line between those who have and those who don't, but the Force is what often divides this line. Andor brings the reader's attention back to a simple but effective idea of power in all its forms. It talks about occupation and colonialism and the illusion of democracy, while also creating a web of characters who give these black and white ideas some shades of gray. Andor, like Rogue, is against the idea that one hero can save us all. The rebellion doesn't need to be special, you have to be willing to have the will to do it, and no one is special if they have that. Andor premiered on September 21st and will have two 12-episode seasons with a lot of time jumps. The first 3 episodes work together to make an extra long pilot. Finally, here's everything we know about another Star Wars series called Ahsoka. Ahsoka's search will take place about 5 years after the Return of the Jedi in the time of the New Republic. As we've seen in The Mandalorian, the Republic seems to be serious about restoring law and order, even if it lets Imperial remnants stay around and grow, but since The Mandalorian takes place in the galaxy's outer rim, we can expect Ahsoka's travels to take her all over. From the former Imperial capital Coruscant to Lothal, Andoran, and maybe even some new worlds. We also think that her interactions with Republic officials will be different from more dangerous situations Din Djarin got into on The Mandalorian. Or maybe we'll find that rank-and-file stormtroopers are just too easy to fool with the Jedi mind trick as the clone troopers before them. Also, there are people in the Republic with higher positions who must remember Ahsoka's name Fulcrum. You have to wonder if she will need their help on her quest. Dawson will play Ahsoka again after her first appearance in The Jedi. The second season episode of Mandalorian, Sabine Wren, played by Natasha Leo Bordizzi, will join her in the series. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about The Mandalorian turning a major character into a villain? Let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.